And where's Godzilla?
18 field, max power!
What are you, stupid?
It's time to show the world what you can do.
Hello and welcome to Dyname, the Daikaiju and Anime podcast, where today, again, we are talking giant monsters. Don't worry, we promise, anime episodes are eventually coming. Evangelion's coming to theaters, we're probably going to cover that, but in the meantime, before we get into the episode, if you want to ask us a comment, question, anything, you want us to review a movie, talk about a monster, give our thoughts on a monster design, email us at dynamapodcast@gmail.com, and if we get an email from you, we'll answer it in the next episode. But other than that, we have reached March. It is March 1st. We are in the month of Godzilla x Kong. We got the classic trio with you here today. We got me, T, and we got Nick.
Hello.
And we got Jason.
Hello.
So today we are just going to kind of go over our general thoughts on the Monsterverse and things like that, things we want to see and hope to see in Godzilla x Kong, and it'll be neat to go back to this podcast after the movies come out. But before we dive into the new movie, I thought we should all just give our general thoughts on the Monsterverse so far. That's going to be everything from Godzilla 2014 all the way to Godzilla vs. Kong. I guess I can just start with this because Godzilla 2014, that was the start of the Monsterverse, and that is my all-time favorite movie. There's a billion reasons why. I'm not going to go into that right now, but that is my all-time favorite movie, so the Monsterverse definitely, in my eyes, started off great. Kong Skull Island is one of my favorite Kong movies. I thought that movie was fantastic, and I really liked how it was set in the 70s. It was a really unique tone for a Kong movie, and it was really unique and original. And overall, it's just a really solid, fun movie. King of the Monsters is my least favorite Godzilla movie. I can't stand that movie. They made so many changes I didn't like. I rewatched it the other day, and I did not enjoy it. I don't like what they did to the Toho monsters, and I just feel like it's a bad movie. And in the Godzilla franchise, there's very few movies in there I'd actually say are bad, and that's one of the few I'd actually give that label. Fortunately, after that, we got Godzilla vs. Kong, and I thought that was a fantastic movie. It doesn't have the same tone or style as 2014 per se, but if this is the direction the Monsterverse is going to continue to go in, I am all here for it. I thought Godzilla vs. Kong was, in some ways, a perfect movie because it did deliver on everything it promised. And not to mention my favorite monster, Mechagodzilla, did make his appearance in the Monsterverse in this movie, and in my eyes, they saved what they did to Ghidorah by incorporating him into that. Other than the movies, we got 2 Monsterverse TV shows. Kong Skull Island was not my favorite thing. I'm going to be trying to give it a rewatch before GXK, see if maybe I can find something to appreciate in it, but I really just did not like that show. And Monarch Legacy of Monsters was surprisingly good, if I'm honest. The show overall may have some flaws, but I think by the finale it all comes together to be arguably the best project in the Monsterverse. That final episode, it hits on every cylinder. It's beautiful, it's emotional, it's epic, and it might have my favorite fight in the entire Monsterverse, but
oh man, I can't wait till I get there.
That's my opinions on just everything we've gotten so far. I don't know if you want to follow me up, Jason.
Sure. Yeah, so going through the same movies, 2014. It's a great movie. It's a solid entry for a Godzilla movie and back into American Godzilla, and I mean just Godzilla movies in general, but we've talked about that before, so it's solid. Then I guess if we stick with the movies, King of the Monsters, I have a similar opinion. I don't know, I only saw it once, and I probably should see it again, but I don't know. I didn't have a desire to. There was kind of a lot of quirks with it, even with some of the characters and especially some of the storyline that I was like, I don't know, but I don't know that it's a horrible movie. But I guess I'd have to watch it again if for me to decide if I'd label it as a bad movie necessarily. But I mean, it's kind of fun to get all the monsters in there, but I can definitely see that like there wasn't any like it was cool having them there, but I could see that maybe it didn't do the whole, you know, all of the monsters justice, I guess, compared to their appearances in other movies. I mean, I don't know. I could see that for sure, but yeah, then it was, well, I guess I skipped over Kong. Right? That's in between
Yep.
those two.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a great movie. Definitely, yeah, different kind of movie. Like different style. Yeah, there's I feel like they just kind of go, they kind of follow a flow with how the tone of the movie starts like pretty serious and then goes into, you know, a couple different styles, which I think is pretty interesting that they go that dynamic. Like as far as the Monsterverse goes. So Kong is something that's got like definitely a big character story, but it's also got like ancient civilization type stuff and mysterious island type stuff, and I don't know, yeah, it's definitely a cool movie. I always think of the song that was in the trailer, like the Moon Rising song.
Oh yeah, Bad Moon Rising. Yep.
Yeah. So I guess that really stuck with me. But moving on to GVK, that movie, that was a really awesome movie. Honestly, in hindsight, like the fact that it's never kind of gets brought up as like a favorite movie, it's very telling because it's like it was a great movie. It was very high energy, exciting. Like I really enjoyed watching it, but like I can see that like, I guess I don't know the right word. You know, maybe there was like an emptiness to it. Not empty. Like
It's
there's
kind of
more-
like a popcorn flick where it doesn't have that depth to it.
Yeah, I like that. Yep. But again, like you said, it really had everything. I loved the appearance of Mechagodzilla with incorporating King Ghidorah. That was awesome. And then just Middle Earth and like the epic scenes of like Godzilla shooting a laser to the center of the Earth. Just really solid movie. Just really fun. I definitely agree with that. Let's see what's next. So now it's the shows. Yeah, I didn't see the Kong show. I think I saw clips of it that looked interesting, but yeah, I guess I never watched it. But and I think I kind of mentioned I'm watching Monarch right now, so I'm really liking it. My wife's really enjoying watching it with me.
What
So
do
that's fun.
what do you think of how much it like switches times, like it cuts back and forth?
It was super confusing at first. I think it's getting easier now. I mean, it's never been so distracting that I didn't like it, I guess. I definitely like I like it when you get a sense of the past and how it's brought into the future. It really brings a lot more to the character of Shaw in the future, and like when he's taking over the Monarch base, it's like, okay, this is awesome because of knowing how he was kind of in charge a long time ago. I don't know. I think it's really good how they like. There's a lot of depth when it comes to that show. Probably the most of like of any of the entries, I guess.
And they expand, unlike the other movies, like Bill Randa from Skull Island. We get to see like his whole backstory in Monarch.
Oh, I forgot about that connection. I didn't even think about that.
And
Well, and
then-
I also like how they're talking about how it's leading up to something, referencing like King of the Monsters, where all the different monsters emerge. Although I haven't seen the rest of the show, so I don't know. Maybe they're just talking about that. But
Without spoiling anything, Monarch does a very good job of connecting the movies. All of them, I'd say. It does a very good job of like kind of being this glue. But Nick, you are somebody who grew up loving Godzilla. This is obviously not our Toho Godzilla. This is not guys in rubber suits. What are your thoughts on each of the Monsterverse Godzilla and Kong projects we've received so far?
I can forgive them for not being a guy in a suit. I think that the Monsterverse has been solid in every every part that's come out. I think it's built on its story very well. I think Godzilla made a big splash with his first big footstep at the airport, and I don't think the ride has ended since that moment. Sure, it's had some lulls and maybe some moments where you don't know where it's going to take you next, but through each film and through the Monarch show, everything's been very well connected, and everything has sort of led into another. Godzilla. God, the first film is just bonkers to me that they did it so well and that it was so well received by fans old and new, and definitely served as a launch point for Legendary to redeem themselves and grow the audience of Godzilla into the next generation. GVK, I liked, or not. I'm jumping the gun here. King of the Monsters. I liked King of the Monsters. If they do something with having fired the oxygen destroyer down the road, I'm all for that. They've got something they can use in the future. Kevin led to our Mechagodzilla, so without King of the Monsters, you can't have your favorite character T.
True.
So you have to give that Geeter a credit. You have to give Kevin credit, because GVK is just Lizard vs. Monkey, and then Kevin's worst day.
No,
I just rewatched it actually with some friends who had never seen it before, and everybody was just blown away by the film.
I will admit, like, I will deal with Monsterverse Ghidorah for the Mechagodzilla. I do like that idea enough to deal with him.
Okay.
Would you agree that, like, in some sense of like that they didn't do some of the Toho monsters justice, or do you think they did okay with all of them?
I think they've done them justice so far. I think people might take issue with Rodan, but at the same time, the way that they have explained the Titans thus far kind of forgives Rodan for being a turncoat. And also, I mean, Godzilla and Rodan weren't friends in every film. So I think it was slick that Rodan was an anti-hero. I liked Mothra's presentation. I loved Mothra's presentation because it combined both the physical with a new look as a Titan, and the whimsical being the power-up that she granted Godzilla in King of the Monsters. Yeah, I thought King of the Monsters did a great job leading into GVK. And Godzilla vs. Kong knocked it out of the park with just different concepts and just being a bonkers film that kind of bridged the gap between the Showa and the Heisei era from the old day for me. It had some craziness that you really couldn't explain, but it also had the Titans and a lot of the kind of the realism of giant monsters in the world from the Heisei era.
I like that. That's a good take.
Yeah, thank you. The Kong Show and Monarch have done a great job with backstory and with tying things together and being glue. Something you mentioned with the time-skipping T. I mean, we already got our fill of that with Singular Point.
Yeah.
So I actually think that Monarch did it better than Singular Point did with the time skip explanations and what was going on when they were bouncing between the things that happened in the past and things that happened in the future, because everything had a sort of Ouroboros feel to it. Like, you have to understand this stuff to get this stuff that's going to happen. So, snake eating its tail.
Even though it wasn't chronological, the way they laid out information in that show was, like you said, probably the best way for the viewer to experience all that.
Yes. And yeah, now we have GVK or GXK, the new empire to look forward to.
That never won't be a little confusing.
Nope.
GVK into GXK.
Yeah.
Now
we're just gonna call it TNE.
The new empire. I like that.
Yeah, it's like...
We got Calm and Tanae.
The director has said you're not supposed to pronounce the X. It's supposed to be Godzilla Kong, the New Empire. And I'm like, nobody's gonna say that. I'm sorry.
Just call it Gong.
Oh my
Get it over with.
They
Gongzilla.
should take the X out then. Put a comma.
Well,
Godzilla Kong.
I like the X because it does definitely. It's a throwback to the Millennium series. We got Godzilla X Mechagodzilla, Godzilla X Mothra, X Mechagodzilla Tokyo SOS, Godzilla X Megaguirus. I think
Were they
it's
on the
nice.
same side in those movies?
No,
No, often
mean-
a lot of those were fighting one another.
I think X means versus in Japan sometimes. I think,
Oh, okay.
but
It could make sense, but if these two are meant to be teamed up in this film and it's a buddy cop movie, I don't. I agree with Jason that I don't like the X in this one.
Okay.
okay. I'm gonna.
I mean, so look at it from what we've seen from the trailers. It is going to be a frickin' buddy cop movie.
They are gonna fight though.
New monkey on the job comes in, old grizzled veteran fires death breath at him to put him in his place and let him know, hey, you gotta understand these streets, son.
Now let me say this, and I don't
blow
know.
up from there.
I don't know if this is gonna be. I don't know if everyone will agree on this, but to me, Godzilla 2014 feels like a very late 70s Showa movie where the focus is on the new monster and Godzilla kind of shows up to save the day like Terror of Mechagodzilla. Kong Skull Island is like an American movie, which should be for Kong. It's very like something I don't think Japan would do. King of the Monsters kind of feels like a Heisei movie to me because we get the Burning Godzilla, and much like the Heisei era did, we reinvent a bunch of Toho monsters for the, at the time, new and modern audience. Godzilla vs. Kong had a little bit of the Millennium vibes in there, but I feel like this movie, with them going all over the world, with all these monsters, the X in the title, the new Godzilla design, I'm kind of getting the Godzilla 2000 and Godzilla Final Wars vibes from this movie. I don't know if any of that's ever been intentional, but it is interesting that every single Godzilla series did start off with a serious movie, and by the end of them, they all got kind of goofy. Final Wars, I guess Godzilla vs. Destroya, not really, but Space Godzilla and Ghidorah, those movies definitely for the 90s, and for the Showa era, Gigan and Megalon, those are pretty goofy. And now it looks like with this movie, we're going in that route again.
You running. That's a little goofy.
I did forget to mention Kong. I fucking love Kong. I love King Kong, that film, because it's just such like a Vietnam era film with Fortunate Son playing as the attack helicopters are coming in over the horizon. And I thought that movie did a great job setting up Kong and setting up Monarch.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I get the same feel that we're kind of entering the weird goofy phase.
And let us not forget, the Monsterverse is turning 10 years old this year. Like, it's been around for a while now. And now with this new movie coming out, we've all seen the trailers. How are we feeling about the new movie, just based on what we know, trailers and that stuff? Do we like this direction? Are we okay with it? We'll start with you on this one, Nick.
So, I did mention earlier, some friends and I watched GVK again. It was my time watching it again. I've seen it, God, a dozen times. It was their first time watching it, and then they've already all seen the trailers for the new Empire. And one of them was like, no way, Godzilla running is dumb. And I'm like, we literally just watched a film where he's on the mainland, like the surface of the earth, running, and now we're seeing him run in the hollow earth where the gravity is all screwed up. Lizard's gonna run. Seeing the trailers, seeing every trailer that's come out and trying to stay away from spoilers, jeez. I'm pumped. I am jazzed for this film. I think I'm about as jazzed for this film as when Godzilla 2000 came out, and I was just so excited to have a new Toho film.
Wow.
Like, holy crap, here we go. This is it.
Are you more hyped for this than you were -1?
I would say it's getting close. This film definitely brings me back to when I was watching the Heisei era and just eating it up and loving it. With some of the team ups and just the storylines. And this film, just the Godzilla look, I liked the original, like the first Millennium Godzilla look. I loved the color of his spines. I loved he was, his a little edginess to him. He was kind of like an edgy teen. Now Godzilla's just an angry old man with some pink in him. But yeah, it's maybe not as high as it was for -1 because that was a new Toho film, which I'm sorry, I get jazzed for Toho films. So
You don't have to apologize.
No, I was gonna say it is
Yeah.
Toho. We
Like
see
Shin
that
came-
logo and we start applauding. Like the
Yep.
Toho logo alone is enough.
Yep. Shin came out and it was like through the roof, cranked up to 11. -1 comes out, it's cranked up to 11. All of these Monsterverse films have been just so good that I am excited. It might not be the same level, but it is excitement.
And now, Jason, I know you brought up them running. A lot of people have definitely brought that up, and I think it's kind of divided the fandom. With that and everything else we've seen, what are you thinking for this movie? Are you excited? Are you worried, etc.?
No, I mean, I think I know what to expect. I mean, it, I don't mean that in a bad way. Like,
It's
I
fine,
definitely,
though.
when I first saw the running, like if I had thought about the direction they're going in, I probably would have been like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But I definitely was a little shocked, and I was definitely one of those people that was like, why is he running? Like, it's just like, is it? I don't know. I just don't know if I was okay with it. But that was a while ago now, honestly. At this point, I'm like, you know what? Like, it's gonna be cool. Like the whole show, like it's gonna be a little goofy. I mean, even just for for Kong too, that they made this thing on his hand or whatever, for whatever reason that happens. Like, again, like, it kind of makes sense because there's somewhat of a symbiotic relationship with Kong and humanity in general. But it's still like a little over the top, I guess, But I will say, like, the only thing I'd be worried about is, like, again, so I love GVK, but yeah, there was a little bit of a tone in King of the Monsters that was like, I don't know how to describe it. Like it was almost like the writing or whatever was like, I just didn't put a lot of stock in, a lot of the characters and like, why is the storyline going this way kind of thing. Again, I'm not trying to say like that was like, I can't necessarily make a judgment to say whether that was a bad movie, but I didn't like that tone for the movie, for a Godzilla movie, as much as even GVK was a little different than that, and 2014 for sure was different than that. So, but I'm optimistic, thinking that it's going to be a little bit more GVK, and I don't know. I'm pretty excited. I think it's going to be really fun, and it's going to be kind of crazy, and it's going to be, I don't know, like all these different characters. What is it, like Manila Kong, or I don't know?
Yeah, Suko is his name. But yeah, that's
God,
basically our
Manila
little.
Kong.
I like that. I like that.
I don't. We had such a conversation that night after that film about different characters from the Heisei era and what we want to see brought over. And some of my friends were like, what about Manila from Showa? I'm like, I'm going to kill every one of you for even bringing this thing in. And then somebody brought Godzuki into the conversation, and I left the Discord.
Doug could evolve into Godzuki.
No, he doesn't need to. He doesn't need to. If they're going to do Godzuki, just do frickin' Varan.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry. Skip out Hanna-Barbera. Just go go back to Varan.
And also, I feel like Final Wars did Manila better than anyone has ever. Like, just leave him. That was perfect.
Leave
like,
him there. He
like
belongs in that fire.
I like to imagine Final Wars is the last Showa era movie. Leave Manila in the Showa era. Just he can stay.
I agree with that.
And one more thing too, like the bad guy, like Kong. Well, not Kong, but like the bad guy.
The Scar King,
I guess, or whatever. What'd you say?
Scar King.
Scar King. I think that's going to be pretty cool. Like, it's going to be a totally different kind of like fight than like you'd see with like any other monster, you know. Especially as like the bad guy, like Kong has never been that, and I don't know. I think that should be interesting. So I'm definitely excited for a lot. And knowing it's going to probably be kind of a crazy, over the top at times, and but I'm expecting it, so I don't think I'll be let down for sure.
And now, honestly, I don't think I've ever been as excited for a movie since Godzilla 2014 came out. My honest prediction is I think this will be the best Godzilla movie of all time. Now, pay attention to what I say. I'm not saying this will be the best film in the Godzilla series, but I do think this will be the best Godzilla movie, if that makes sense. I think this will end up being my all-time favorite or second favorite movie. It's just what I think from everything I've seen so far. Adam Wingard directed GVK. He's coming back for this, and if you asked me, what do you want to see after Godzilla vs. Kong? I would have said I want more of the Hollow Earth, and I want Godzilla and Kong teaming up for a whole movie. And it looks like that's what we're getting. I have no complaints. Everything to me looks fantastic. I love the shots. Say what you want about them running. It's iconic. It is already an iconic shot that is everywhere. I just think this is going to be, like, I think Adam Wingard is going to nail it with this movie. I think this is going to be a very special movie. I think we're all going to be blown away by things we've never seen before in the Godzilla franchise. But I also think this movie is going to hit all of the notes that we want in a Godzilla movie. And I mean, like, all of them. Now, I have to say this. Those are all my thoughts before the leaks. I have seen the leaks. I am not going to spoil anything here. All I will say is I have not dived into the leaks. I don't know how the movie ends or anything. I've just seen a few things. Basically, after being spoiled a tiny bit, everything I just said still stands. I think this will be that good. I really do. And now, we know about a few of the monsters. We know about a few of the monsters in this movie. We have our evolved Godzilla. We have Kong. Maybe Mothra in the trailer. Maybe. Looks like she was in there for a second. We
possibly a Mothra society or something. I don't know.
Potentially. We have Scar King. Looks like Shimo's going to be around. Suko. Bunch of new monsters, but I got a question for the guys, for the boys. If you could pick one monster from the Monsterverse who appeared in a previous project to reappear in this movie, who would you go with? That goes from the Mutos to King Ghidorah. Anybody is fair game. You can come up with any reason how they come back if you want. Like, Ghidorah could regenerate everything. Just, if you could pick anyone to come back and throw them into this crazy movie, who would you pick? And Nick, we'll let you start this one.
Mine's pretty obvious. It's Mothra. I think I said it in our last podcast. I just want Mothra back. I want more information about, in the Monsterverse, how Mothra's species and Godzilla's species interacts. There's definitely a lot going on. I want to know if Mothra plays out as the quasi-spiritual being that she is in the Toho universe. I'm really interested in that connection there. So it's Mothra for me, simple as can be.
If Mothra comes back and she has the same design as King of the Monsters, I might walk out of the theater.
I wouldn't care.
I can't handle it.
I wouldn't care. She could look more like Batra. If she came back, it's fine. They don't have to change her design.
You're honestly right. No, you're right. It is the same universe. Like, if she's consistent, I can't complain about that.
If she comes back different, I won't mind. I can see where you're coming from, though, with wanting to see her design get an upgrade or come back in a different form. Like, I agree that would be cool. I'm just saying that I could do with either.
I can see that. And it's just because, like, Kong's got a new design. He's got the beard. Godzilla's got a new design. It'd be nice if Mothra came back, she got a new one, too. And that would be the first time Kong and Mothra have interacted. And they were supposed to be in a movie together in Godzilla versus the Sea Monster. But then they swapped Kong for Godzilla, so that if they interact too, those could be some really cool scenes.
That would be neat. I would like that.
I think for me, if it came down to any of the Monsterverse monsters, any of them, I want the Ion Dragon from Monarch to come back.
So he can get bodied again?
No, because he can fight Kong and he can take him. I need... Listen, I don't even care. I'll be honest. I don't care if he comes back just to die. The Ion Dragon is the exact kind of monster I would not like on paper. It is a dragon, is a bipedal dragon that shows up, loses to Godzilla. Well, yeah, I can say it. He loses to Godzilla, and just, I'm not someone who likes dragons. Like Game of Thrones, all that stuff, I've never liked it. I've always liked Ghidorah. But when I saw the Ion Dragon, and I read about the behind the scenes, and I'm like, oh, they used a deep sea anglerfish face, and its wings are flying fish, and it kind of has gills, and instead of breathing fire, it vomits nacre, which is what's found inside mollusks. I'm like, this is exactly why I love the Monsterverse. It is the perfect blend of nature and myth into monster. And the Ion Dragon is honestly in my top 5 all-time favorite kaiju. I mean, all-time. I love this thing so much. And, well, it was great to have him in Monarch. I really think he deserves a shot to be on the big screen. And, I mean, I'd love to see him fight Kong. I think that could be a really cool fight. But for you, Jason, if you could pick anybody from the Mutos to Mechagodzilla and anyone in between, who from the Monsterverse would you like to see return?
Yeah, I wish I'd seen the whole Monarch to decide, because I've already seen some creative additions to the Monsterverse there. But honestly, my first thought was Mothra. Like, I thought about
good man.
thought about trying to bring in a new player here, but no. I mean, I really just honestly would like to see Mothra. I don't know. I think there's a lot that they could do and add to the story with this one, especially with all the different moving pieces and different parts that it seems like are going to be present. Yeah, I'd love to see it for sure.
And then going off that, let's say Legendary came to all of us and they said, boys, each of you get to pick one Toho monster that has not appeared in the Monsterverse already, so no Ghidorah, no Mechagodzilla, no Mothra. What Toho monster would you like to make a surprise appearance in Godzilla X Kong? Personally, I think because this is our American Godzilla franchise, as much as I would love to see the Oxygen Destroyer utilized and Destroyer show up, I think I'd have to go with Space Godzilla. For me, Space Godzilla has always held a special place in the American Godzilla fandom. He was the bad guy in all the American Godzilla video games. Not all of them, but the big 3 Atari ones. He is featured in a lot of the comics. Even when Space Godzilla's movie wasn't over here, we were getting toys of him. And I think it would be very fitting to have the finale to the Monsterverse use him as the main villain. Heck, I mean, if you give us Destroyer and Space Godzilla, I can't think of a bigger finale than that, but I think he's always had a special place in the American Godzilla fandom and universe, so I think he kind of deserves a spot in these American Godzilla movies. And then for you, Jason, if you could pick any of the old Toho boys or girls to bring back, who would you pick?
I don't know if I have enough time to think about this. Well, because I was kind of thinking Anguirus would be cool, but I don't know how he would fit into the story. I mean, it's not like a main villain type monster. I mean, it could play a cool part for sure, but I guess I don't know enough about the story, obviously, to see how that would fit in. I mean, I would like to see another iteration of Anguirus, since the most recent one was what, Singular Point?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, because... Yeah, I don't know. I can't think of... I mean, you mentioned, Destroyer, you mentioned, I don't know. What other options could there be? I guess
Gigan, Hedorah, Dogora, Varin, Mogara, Biolante, Batra, Megaguirus,
Yeah, Jaguar.
Monster X. Bring Bryan Cranston back and make him Jet Jaguar.
Oh my gosh.
that would be awesome. That would be something special.
Brody will be piloting him.
Stop.
Father and son.
I'm gonna get disappointed now. Stop. But it's all right if you can't pick Jason. There are a bajillion of them.
Yeah, I mean, I'll stick with, it. I'm just thinking Hedorah. Like that would be something special too. Like,
that'd be disgusting.
Well, and the man who directed Godzilla vs. Hedorah is the executive producer on all of the Monsterverse films. He passed away a little while ago, but he is the reason we are getting the American Godzilla movies. It kind of started off as a sequel to Godzilla vs. Hedorah. It was going to be an American IMAX short film, but that kind of didn't happen, and then 2014 happened. So if they did pick Hedorah, it would be very fitting for that reason. And, I mean, he would fit with the Monsterverse Godzilla, throwing off the balance of nature for sure. The whole pollution angle.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? If it was Anguirus, it'd have to be like like a cameo, pretty much, and it'd be something fun. But I'd be down for Hedorah. I'll make that my pick.
Respectable. Nice. Now, Nick, you already picked Mothra for your returning monster. Who are you picking as a Toho OG to reinvent and update for American audiences?
Okay. I've had some time, obviously, listening to you two talk about your characters. I thought, with what I'd said earlier, Destroya would be a definite shoe-in for like a cameo scene at the end or a stinger. But I actually think the character that I want to see return from Toho would be Baby Godzilla.
Ooh.
Godzilla.
I think that if this film wanted to platform the Godzilla or the Kaiju kids, then you could have Suko, Doug, and a little Godzilla. And I just feel like that would be perfect.
Oh, now I really see what you mean about Doug being the Anguirus. Like, because if Doug's older, he could almost kind of take care of the kids a little bit too.
Yep.
The babysitter.
He's a babysitter. If he gets bigger and he starts to develop spines, we're going to know right away it's Anguirus. That would be cool as a babysitter angle, just watching over these two little kaiju that are going to become more powerful than their parents, for sure, or more powerful than the other representatives of their species.
Yeah, I mean, it lends to like future development, like future possibilities.
And it gives Godzilla a weakness. Like, you can, because let's be honest, we've seen, okay, little drama here. People on Twitter, D-Man1954 is a huge Godzilla YouTuber. I love him. No disrespect to you, my guy, if you're listening, but he brought up how Godzilla never wins fights in the Monsterverse. He always needs help, and he's really weak, and our Godzilla he's never won a fight without a lot of help. And I'd like to make the argument, he's never been in that much danger. When the Mutos were hitting him, every second they stopped, he just stood right up. When Ford blows up the Muto's nest, Godzilla is getting up the second they aren't hitting him. It's not like they get distracted and he got up and he snuck around to do the atomic breath. When he was fighting Ghidorah, Godzilla put him in the ice in ancient times. Godzilla was doing fine in Antarctica. Godzilla was doing fine in the ocean. And at the end, you can argue Ghidorah had him in a vice grip, but Godzilla was fine. He won. It was game over. And versus Kong, he did fine. And we even know from the director, if he wasn't tired from burrowing into the hollow earth, he would have done fine against Mechagodzilla. Godzilla, like I've said many times, is kind of like Superman. And I think giving him a kid would, in a way, be his kryptonite. Because we can't kill Godzilla, but we can definitely kill baby Godzilla. And it'd be interesting to see Godzilla have a vulnerable side to him, and maybe he would have to ask Kong for help or something like that.
It's just like both of the baby versions get captured by this, like, the society of all the apes or whatever, and then it's like, all right, we got to team up to save our kids.
Like that would be awesome.
There's your there's your Space Godzilla angle.
Oh my god!
Space Godzilla
Dude,
imprisons
stop.
not just baby Godzilla, but imprisons baby Godzilla and Suko, and it's gonna be Godzilla and Kong versus fucking Space Godzilla.
I mean, I don't want to be this guy. Look at all the crystals in the background of the trailer. Look at all the crystals. Like, forgive me.
There's a lot of crystals. There's a lot of crystals.
I don't think the MonsterVerse Godzilla is weak, and like every Godzilla movie has him quote unquote losing the fight for a bit. Like, you have to have it drawn out. And I think there's an art to these things. Like Godzilla falling from space, that doesn't hurt him, but the drill on Mechagodzilla's hand, that should hurt him because it's Mechagodzilla. There's a little. Sometimes you gotta throw the realism. Leave it at the door. This is a Godzilla and Kong movie. Come on. Now, we've kind of shared most of our thoughts on this. We're all really excited. Do we have any closing thoughts before we see the movie in a couple weeks?
I mean, you guys mentioned Doug being, possibly growing into iteration of Anguirus. So I didn't think about that as a way for Anguirus to fit. But what's a little bit more of the story with Doug?
Okay, so.
Like Titanus Doug, is that what I heard?
Yes. So I don't like. It all started when King of the Monsters came out and Ghidorah's head got named Kevin, which I am not a fan of because I'm like, that's Ghidorah, that's our boy. We don't need to make him dumb, but whatever. After that, a little lizard monster showed up in Godzilla vs. Kong, and people online called him Doug. I'm more okay with this one because this is a brand new original monster that didn't really have a name yet. And then the director of the movie was like, yes, look at him. He is a Doug. That is definitely his name. Then they started putting out merch with that official name, and Monarch has given that species the scientific name of Titanus Doug. Nice. And the director joked, like, we used him for one shot in the last movie. We got to get our money's worth, so he's coming back. So he's confirmed. Like that. We don't know how much of the movie he'll be in. We don't know what he'll do. I'm hoping we get Doug versus Suko, and it could be like a mini Godzilla versus Kong fight, but we'll see what happens.
Or the babysitter angle would be good too.
It'd be interesting. It also comes down to how big is Doug now? Like, has he grown since the last movie? Is it the same Doug, or is this going to be like there's a bunch of them and it doesn't really matter who's who? We don't know at this point what angle they're going to take with him.
Okay, one more thought about the baby versions. If we did get a baby,
Manila.
What am I saying? Godzilla's son, baby Godzilla, whatever.
No, not Manila. A baby Godzilla. don't you say Manila? We get a baby Godzilla.
So if we did get a baby Godzilla, and we have already seen the baby Kong. And even possibly like a version of like this Titanus Doug or whatever. Does that open it up to the possibility that one of these Titans could die?
Whoa!
I mean, it's not out of the it's not out of the realm of possibility.
Hold on now. Yeah, we gotta.
Because if it's like they have a generation to like continue the MonsterVerse past them, like does that? I don't know.
Listen. If Mothra comes back, that's who's dying.
No, not again.
Oh yeah,
not again.
They
Please,
have to.
Not again. Please, not again.
It would be a little sad if it did happen twice, but I won't lie. I don't think they can kill Godzilla. I don't think they're like allowed to. Is like a thing. Mm-hmm. So like I think he's safe. If you kill Kong,
my wife would be mad.
I mean, that's definitely how you get a reaction out of the audience. I won't lie.
Just imagine though how I can based on that response, just not accepting the idea of Godzilla dying. If I don't think he would. I don't think he would either. But man, I could see how mad you'd be if he did.
If Godzilla died, like, oh, ooh, man, like, that's 98. That's -1. I don't like that. You don't do that to my boy.
It'd be interesting. It'd be interesting.
I did like. Sorry, this is total sidetrack. I'll make it quick, but I did like the appearance of him, in the show, the Monarch show.
Yeah, they have the 2014 design in that.
Yeah,
show.
in '54 though. I was like, that's awesome.
Um,
At Bikini Atoll, I was like, this is legendary.
literally. One last thing, boys. We've gotten it in every Godzilla Monsterverse movie. Your opinion. Actually, two questions. Just yes or no's. Will a monster get decapitated in this movie? It's happened in every movie besides Skull Island. Do you think Scar King at the end... I don't know, because he's more human. I don't know if they could get away with that.
I really don't think they could get away with that.
I don't think they could get away with it either. I think it's... Yeah, that's not going to fly.
And secondly, do you think, just yes or no, do you think there are some things we do not know anything about in this movie? Or do you have the feeling the trailers kind of gave it all to us? We kind of, like, we know pretty much all of it.
I don't feel like I know all of it. Sorry.
I think the possibility exists that we get a curveball thrown at us. Especially for the ending. Looking at the trailers, it might be easy to piece together some of the order of the film, but I feel like there's still room for there to be a surprise. I
would agree. And I, like I've said, I have been leaked on quite a few things, just mostly images, but I have no idea how this ends. I really hope nobody spoils that for me. That is like, it's one thing to know if, I won't lie, when Godzilla vs. Kong came out, I stayed mostly spoiler-free. I had a feeling Mecha G was going to be there. And then I'm at Walmart, and I'm like, oh, there's a toy of the new design. A week before I see the movie. Cool. That stuff, in my opinion, doesn't ruin movies. I think knowing about things like that, at the end of the day, you're going to watch it and find out. I think if a spoiler ruined a movie for you, it probably wasn't going to be a good movie. And the spoilers I've seen, let me just, like I said, I really do think this is going to be number one for me. I'm so excited. I haven't been this excited for a movie since, I was a kid. Yeah. Well, that's all for this episode, everybody. Thank you for listening. As usual, email us at dynamitepodcast@gmail.com if you want to yell at us for our wrong opinions or have us ask any questions or anything. But for now, we're going to get going. We'll be back to record some Evangelion and our review for Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire when that drops. But for now, it's me, T, and we got Jason.
See you later.
And Nick.
Have a good day.